The DeepSeek moment, where they claimed they trained a model for $6 million, which then wiped off over $1 trillion of market cap of the US stock market, is the best PR I've ever seen. Because that number, the 6 million, is fundamentally misleading. The 6 million is what was used for the final training run. However, there's no mention of the over $1 billion spend DeepSeek's parent company spent before we got to the final training run. And there's also no mention of the fact that DeepSeek was able to stand on the shoulders of American giants, US lab, Anthropic, and previously we've heard OpenAI and Google also saying how they're coming under industrial scale assault for their model capabilities being stolen through concerted IP extraction campaigns coming from DeepSeek and other CCP-backed Chinese labs. So they're stealing and distilling US capabilities. So all of those billions of dollars that are going into kind of the hardware and the training and the scaling in the US is something that they're able to take out. And then there were real engineering efficiencies. So the algorithmic breakthroughs that they did in order to run the model, or run inference on the model, 90% cheaper. That is really some very, very clever mathematics. So full credit to the engineers for being able to do that. However, to say that this model was built on 6 million is simply misleading, because it's just some clever accounting on what was spent on the final training run. So what is interesting about the DeepSeek moment is that it shows that once you've innovated at the frontier, it becomes very easy to catch up to the frontier and a lot cheaper. But innovating beyond the frontier, right? Pushing out the boat beyond what's capable now, that's what's really interesting. And that's what I'm still seeing primarily coming from the US labs rather than the Chinese labs. You can catch up to the frontier, but can you innovate beyond the frontier? And therefore, if the frontier capability of the model is not something that's a moat, it's not a competitive advantage, because everything you create at the frontier can be distilled and stolen. You have to think about where the real competitive advantage comes from. And my belief is that it's in the infrastructure, in the actual physical footprint of the intelligence factories that are going to help you get beyond the frontier. Now, I think we're in for another kind of DeepSeek moment 2.0, because the markets simply don't understand what's happening with AI. Actually, nobody really understands. Nobody knows where this is going to go. So we see so much market volatility. That 1.2 trillion we saw wiped off the US market when DeepSeek dropped its model and made those claims of 6 million. We'll see another moment of those, because right now, the Trump administration has admitted that there is a kind of secret facility in Inner Mongolia where DeepSeek is training its latest model with access to NVIDIA's Blackwell chip. NVIDIA's Blackwell chip is the most advanced GPU that's on the market right now. These are chips that are actually illegal in China, so they've illegally obtained these chips. They're training their latest capabilities on these chips, but what they're going to do is strip out any kind of evidence of the American hardware. They're going to claim that this was all run on Huawei hardware. This wasn't American hardware. And of course, there's going to be no credit to the intelligence that they've distilled and stolen from the American labs. So it's going to be stolen American hardware, illegal American hardware, distilled American intelligence, and then with some very, very clever engineering, I expect that they'll be able to make a leap in terms of cost, or say that they did this far cheaper, and that will probably lead to another market shock. But if you look underneath the numbers a little bit and you look at the infrastructure, the truth is a little bit more nuanced. DeepSeek says it costs less than $6 million to train their model. That number is technically true in the same sense that a flight across the Atlantic only costs the price of the jet fuel. But that number ignores the airport, the pilots, the decades of engineering it took in order to make that flight possible. The way they came up with that number is they took the 2.8 million GPU hours it took to push the final training run for the model, and they priced it at $2 an hour, which is typically the going market rate to rent an hour of compute from an H800.